morning and welcome back to our second segment of Connections. I'm Val Atkinson, your host, joined by Ed Clark, co-host, and you've been listening to the Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court, the Honorable Cherie Beasley. And this segment, our second segment, we are fortunate to have the Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate, the Honorable Cal Cunningham. Cal, welcome to the show. You've been here before, so we don't have to go through the normal step-by-step issues, and we can dispense with that. I can say welcome to the show, and you know what we're talking about.
Well, Val and Ed, it's great to be back on Foxy. I'm grateful to be with you, especially given the stakes over the next couple of weeks as folks are casting their ballots. This is the time, my friend. Great to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we have a lot to say and a lot of things to cover. So if you don't mind, I'd like to delve right into it. And let's start talking about something that concerns me personally. That is the Affordable Care Act. Yes, and, this falls right in the lap of the U.S. Senate. Because regardless of what the chief executive says that he wants to do or would like to do, if the Senate doesn't go along, nothing happens. And we've got to talk about where our incoming new senators stand on this and what we can look forward to regarding our health care in the age and the time of the greatest pandemic we've known.
You put your finger right on one of the most important issues of our time. I believe that every American should have quality and affordable health care. It is a human right. And today in North Carolina, we got over 1 million of our people don't have health care. And at a time when a virus is ravaging the people of our state, we have lost thousands of lives. We've had hundreds of thousands sick. Val, you and Ed know better than anybody that this is particularly touching people of color. It exposes inequities in our health care. The fact that too many of our people don't have coverage, don't have quality access to the doctors and the medicine that they need. And the way that we get from here to where we need to get is we got to build off the success of the Affordable Care Act. It's not perfect. It needs work. We got to fix it. But rather than move forward and extend coverage to more of our people, Tom Tillis, the fella I'm going to replace with the voters' blessing, he's been voting to take it away. This fellow's voted, and I just want to pause on that for a second, Val. I want you to think about that. The senator for the state of North Carolina, it's hard to believe, in Washington, D.C., has voted over a dozen times to take away health care from people in our state. The fellow blocked Medicaid expansion when he was Speaker of the House. And listeners should know that's part of the Affordable Care Act. We could be covering 600,000 people today. But Tom Tillis passed the law, as he said proudly, making it illegal to expand Medicaid to our people. And then he went to Washington, and not only did he try to take away the choice for North Carolinians, he voted to take it away for all 38 states that have expanded Medicaid.
Yeah, Cal, I'm glad you,
Ed. It's unconscionable.
It is unconscionable, Cal, and I'm glad you bring that up because I was down at the legislature just about every day during that period when he was trying to block Medicaid. Talk to us about the importance of having a comprehensive plan. You're right. ACA does have some holes that need to be filled. Let's be honest and acknowledge that. But how would you fill those holes? Not only with Medicaid expansion, what other ideas do you have that would help make the ACA actually more robust as opposed to just tearing it completely apart?
Well, Ed, so glad you asked that. First of all, we need to do the Medicaid expansion like you and I were just talking about. Of the 1.2 million people without coverage today, that gets about half of them. Now, the second thing we need to do is we need to add a public option to the Affordable Care Act. And that public option can catch people if they're leaving their employer-based care. And I think, look, a lot of people are happy with what they get through the workplace. And I'm going to make sure that we protect that. But folks that lose their jobs, like in the middle of a pandemic, they lose their health care at the same time. We need to catch them in a public option. And then the third thing we need to do right now, the policies that are available under the exchanges, like you go on the exchange once a year and you can find policies. The premiums are high and the deductibles are outrageous. We need to fix the subsidies. There are subsidies available for people to help buy into that market. The subsidies haven't kept up with the costs. So we got to fix the subsidies. And then let me add one more piece of the puzzle. We need to deal with the cost of prescription drugs. And there are bipartisan plans that will bring down the cost of prescription drugs. Tom Tillis, that man took $400,000 from the big pharma companies, and he's even trying to stop and oppose Republican bipartisan plans to bring down the cost of prescription drugs. Medicare ought to be able to negotiate. We ought to be bringing down those costs.
And I'm glad you bring that up about prescription drugs, because Val at his advanced age needs a lot of prescription drugs. And it requires that we really do something serious about drug costs. You know, I see from pharmacy to pharmacy, Cal, you can spend $10 at Walmart, but you go somewhere else and the same drug is $100. We don't have any kind of control over this. As far as how do you bring down those costs of drugs? You know, we have tried not to come up with plans that would go and negotiate with the pharmaceutical companies to bring down those costs. Is that part of what you want to do? I mean, what else can we do with these pharmaceutical companies so they don't continue to charge outrageous amounts?
Well, look, when we did the Medicare expansion, when we added prescription drugs to Medicare, this was 15 some odd years ago. Bush did it, the Congress did it, but they didn't have a way to pay for it. One of the things they put in that law, which was a gift to the pharmaceutical companies, was it stopped Medicare from negotiating using its buy. Look, Medicare is the largest buyer of prescription drugs in the world, the largest buy, and they are prohibited by law from negotiating, using that lever of power, that economic might to negotiate for lower costs. The pharmaceutical company sets the cost, and Medicare either says yes or no. And if it says yes, no holds barred, man. So what Medicare needs to have the right to negotiate for prescription drugs. And then second, and some of these bipartisan plans that Tillis has been opposing, set up a schedule. And they say, look, pharmaceutical company, you need to be able to research and find the next cure, but you can't price gouge. So here, let's set up a schedule. So what you see over here and what you get over there is there's more transparency for the pricing. Ed, going exactly to your point. So we're well within the capability to do this. It's not a problem of can Washington do this. It's a question of whether they have the will to do this. One of the reasons I'm running on campaign finance reform and cleaning up Washington is it's because the special interests and the big corporate people are the ones calling the shots up there. And Ed, if you and Val and the folks that listen to Foxy, if their voices are heard loud and clear in Washington, we're going to have change.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's what we need to make sure, Cal, that some of the things that really bother the community are really taken care of. We talk from time to time on this show about the things the antics that Donald Trump pulls off and the things that are associated with him are unbearable. We don't like them or whatever, but we look at who is propping this guy up. Who are his sycophants? Who are his enablers? And it's the people in the U.S. Senate led by Mitch McConnell. So if you don't care about healthcare, which that means you're not really sane, if you don't really have a choice about what goes on in your representation, you should be concerned with who is giving the power to the president of the United States to continue his antics. And we do that by not one vote, one senator in Wisconsin or Maine or Texas or even in North Carolina, but a conglomerate effort to make sure that we put good people in office. And I was glad to find out that you were running on that. Speaking of running on that notion, Cal, let's talk a little bit about voter turnout. We know there's a lot of background noise now about voter suppression, about participation on every level. What's your message to the listeners, those who may not have voted yet? We know today's the first day of voted. There's 16 days left. Let me put it that way when you're listening to this show. But there are some folks who haven't voted yet. What's your message to them?
Well, here's the message. Representative John Lewis said, just recently passed away. He said, your vote is almost sacred. With that one vote, with that one, you walk into that voting booth, you have the same power as the man who's inhabiting 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue right now. You've got the same vote that Donald Trump has. You've got the same vote that Tom Tillis has. And everybody who's in Washington is there on a contract. It might be a 2-year contract, a 4-year contract, or a 6-year contract. Every listener in this program who is eligible needs to go over to a voting booth, an early vote site. They can request a ballot to be mailed to them that they can mail back in. Well, I don't want people to wait till election day because the lines could be long. People need a plan to vote. A vote is power. It is power. And with that vote, and then you round up your friends and your neighbors, you round up your family members, you get them to the polls. With that vote, we can cleanse America. We can turn the page on this 4-year experience that we have had. And we can get people into office who are committed to service, not drama, but service, who want to use the tools available to bring down the cost of prescription drugs. Now, look, Val, folks go into the voting booth and they're going to see my name on the ballot. They're going to see Cal Cunningham on the ballot for United States Senate. But it's not me. It's their health care. The name's Cal Cunningham, but it's their public schools that need the money. The name is Cal Cunningham, but it's beating COVID and getting people relief that they need. The name is Cal Cunningham, but it is a roof over people's heads right now. And we got hundreds of thousands of families can't pay the rent while we work our way through this crisis that we're living in. So first of all, it's about every voter has power and that vote matters. And in North Carolina, we decide races not by big landslides. We decide races by 4 votes per precinct. Roy Cooper, our governor, 4 votes per precinct. When we elected Barack Obama in 2008, it was more like 3 votes per precinct. Your vote matters. It's powerful. It's almost sacred, to quote John Lewis, and folks need a plan to cast it right now.
There's a little time left, Cal, and people still can do work to help. And I'm sure your campaign, which is run by very competent people, would attest to that. I want you to take these last few seconds and leave some contact points for people who really still want to work with you and work for you and do some things to help you win. How can they contact you?
Val, the most important way is people can go on the website at cal4nc.com, cal4nc.com. They can hop on there. There's a click link. They can volunteer. They can get more information. If they want to see plans on healthcare and criminal justice reform and investing in our schools and beating this virus, the information's there. They can hit the link. They can share at cal4nc.com. They can send that information to their friends. They can also go on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram at the same Cal4NC, and they can find it, they can share. And I'll tell you, you see TV ads and radio ads and all that mail, but Val, you and Ed know this because it's the line of work you're in. The most influential political communication is a friend talking to a friend. It's a family member talking to a family member. It's a neighbor or a coworker talking and saying, hey, I just heard on Foxy, this Cunningham guy, and I liked what I heard. Let me tell you about him. I've been on his website. Let me share. That's how we share the message. That's how we get people involved. That's how we win elections and get this country back on track.
Well, again, Cal, you've hit the button right on the head in a timely fashion. And we want to thank you so much for taking your time this morning and being with us and talking about your campaign. And we want to ask you the same question that we asked the Chief Justice. will you commit to return to Foxy after your victory on the 3rd of November?
Val and Ed, I insist on coming back. If you will have me on Foxy, I'll be on Foxy.
All right, you heard it right there. That's a deal. Well, good luck, Senator, and that's no Freudian slip. I mean it in advance. And we'll be talking to you real soon. Folks, that's been Cal Cunningham, the Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate for the state of North Carolina. And we have some